this solo and how it began and where you first got the idea.
Well, Normalizer established as being a drum solo, and the thing what I did about like 10 years ago, I started to record my drum solos like in preparation for the, what was it again, like the Modern Drummer Fest or something like that. So I came up with the idea to, so it's part actually of my practice routine, it still is, to record drum solos, record myself and just, see which ideas are good, which ones I have to go, which ones are, maybe I should slow down, or how to rearrange like patterns. And so having said that, I did actually a solo around, what was it, like 2000, 2001, and actually a friend of mine, Mario Brigman, who's a synthesist, so to speak, he heard the drum solo, and he thought it was really cool. We were just both of us actually listening to that thing, and then I had this idea like, well, how about if we would put instruments to that, just like, right to the drum solo.
A lot of times I was responding to your drum track as though we were improvising together in real time.
Right. Which was amazing. I heard the first few bits when John played me that, and there was like seriously some magic going on that I remember when we play live that happens sometimes.
Yeah, and I really wanted to try to call on some of that energy, although even though you were represented by ones and zeros in a computer rather than actually being there, right. I felt that I could still have that relationship with you musically. So what I would do is just I'll say, okay, John, play me like the next 30 seconds, and then I would get a feel for what you had done without getting too specific about exactly what the timing of your insanity was in that moment. And then I would just say, okay, I think I hear this kind of guitar over it, or this kind of keyboard over it, or maybe a bass line, and then record just that. And then I would go back and see if I thought that the relationship between those two instruments, whatever I had just played, and your drums made any kind of sense to me. And if it did, then I would orchestrate that moment. I would find harmonic support for whatever it was I had played. And then I might choose, like if I played some free-flowing thing on the guitar over your drums that was improvisational, I might choose to come up with a keyboard thing or a bass thing that was precisely in unison with what you did with the drums. Right. So there would be that feeling of tightness and organization, but there would still be a flowing improvisational counterpoint over the top. But every moment of the music was always like a different call as to whether I was going to go precisely with what you did or not. So there's parts of the album where it's obviously very tightly in unison with you, and then other parts where it just sounds like guys, improvising and responding to one another.
And sometimes it even, turns into like almost song-like things. I heard like this one thing you did, Ka, which is like amazing.
Yeah, really Ka is the fulcrum of the album. It's like the whole album builds towards Ka, and then after Ka, it's sort of it just sort of disperses. It becomes much more spare, and so if you put the album on a graph, I think it kind of goes. I initially had this idea that like the last 10-12 minutes of the record were going to be almost like one or two tones. That it was going to get extremely stripped down, but eventually I couldn't hang with that. But I did end up making the last part of the album, which is represented by the last two tracks, which are Trying and A Place to Stay for the Night is what I call them, and those are that's about 10 minutes at the end of the record where it does get very, at least by the standards of the rest of the record, very stripped down. For whatever reason, the way that those ruins look bears some resemblance to the way that this album feels to me.